Yeah. So today, guys, it's just going to be Jaron and myself. We don't have a guest today, and it's okay. I'll actually kind of want to get. We've been meeting with some interesting people, and today it's just kind of one of those times I'm ready to kind of just mind dump a few things. But for sure, I know you brought up the idea of frequency, and I've actually been seeing some things about frequency lately as well. I'm watching different topics about it.
Yeah.
Including, get this, including the what is it, the periodic table.
I've been seeing that recently.
Yeah.
What's his name? The actor was talking about it.
Yeah, he was in the very first Iron Man. I can't remember his name, but he was.
Gosh, I'm looking it up. What's his name? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about, but yes. Okay.
So that was like that. I was like, what? So, but that goes to the topic of frequency of what you're talking about, because there is some relation to that. So, yeah, what's your story? Because I know you have an amazing story about this. This was happened in Vegas?
Oh no. So this story, we got Alex over here on the switchboard. He's laughing because he knows these stories.
He knows the story.
So I call this
Alex,
story.
do you have a mic just in case? We can get you a mic.
Dude, we should get you a mic.
We'll get you a mic.
Here, we're gonna get you a mic. Wait. Yeah, this.
Yeah,
works. Here,
put that.
If you have any commentary or anything, you can.
You're welcome to chime in. We got a mic instead of a lasso. A lasso. It's a little late for us. This is our later one, right?
Yeah, we're doing this at 7. He's at youth group right now, right down the road. And so the reason you asked Vegas is and I'm gonna share it on this podcast at some point, just because it's a great testimony.
Okay.
And so it's interesting. We're doing this Star Wars style. I'm gonna tell the second story first, and then we're gonna have to go back to the beginning, like how they made the movies. Okay. So. Talking about frequency, the first thing is the book called Power vs. Force.
Yeah.
And I think it's by David R. Hawkins. Have you ever read this book?
I've read it twice.
You've read it twice?
Yes.
Oh, dang. So
and both times, I mean, the first time I'm like, what the hell is this book talking about? The second time I'm like, I get it. I'm understanding it more, but it's not one of those books you just read once, twice. Like there's different stages in your life that you need to be reading this book at. So I'd say at least once a year. It's a
very interesting book. I read this book. It was given to me, and oh my gosh, Alex, this is gonna blow your mind. So this book was given to me by the person from the Vegas story.
Of course it was.
Yes. Oh so which we'll get into.
Wait, no, Vegas story or the California
the crazy
story?
lady in that was in the Vegas and the California story.
Oh. It always starts with a crazy lady. Either dude, I was so wasted this one time, or this crazy person came up to me.
This is going to be. I might just have to go through some stories.
Before we start, the actor is Terrence Howard on Joe Rogan.
Terrence Howard, I love.
He's hired.
I like that.
So, basically, so Power vs. Force, it was given to me in 2017, and totally like unaware of that stuff. Really, I knew it was there from a spiritual sense, that God created like laws and different things in the universe.
Yeah.
But I never like spent any time or dug into it really. So when this book was given to me, I was like, this is really interesting. Not only do we vibrate at frequencies, emotions and music and different things all have this certain level that you hit on. And so the story I'm going to tell, I went to this retreat, okay? And it's about frequencies, and it's about this book.
There's literally a retreat you went to, and it's all it was about was frequencies. Where do you find this stuff?
Dude, okay, so this is hilarious. Okay, how I ended up at this crazy retreat, I was working out at a gym for about a year, and this guy I connected with, he wanted to put a big chunk of money in for only 2% of All American Canine.
Okay.
And he was ready to go. And I was like, dude, this is great. This is a big chunk of money for only 2%. The valuation was gross. And I was like, this is great. He's like, hey, I would like you to come to this retreat, and it's called Abundant Living. And I'm like, well, I can't go wrong with that name.
Abundant Living. It sounds great. Sounds pretty safe.
Dude, yeah. So I have had coffee with this guy, and so I'm like, I don't see any red flags. And I'm like, okay. And then he sends me the link. It's like $3,500. And I'm like, and I got a plane ticket. I'm like, I don't have any money right now. I'm broke. So I'm like, I can't go. And he's like, tell you what, you buy your plane ticket, I'll get your ticket to go there. I was like, all right, let's go.
Okay.
It's a 5-day retreat. And it's basically unplugging from the world. You, the only thing you know is you are not going to have access to your phone, laptop, or anything from the outside world for 5 days. And you're going to be with a group of strangers, and you're going to learn about what it is to be abundant living for their curriculum.
Okay.
And so I'm like, great, let's do this. And so I go.
You guys all wearing like special robes or something like that?
It basically gets there. So I show up.
Okay.
And it's at this place in Monterey, California. I can't remember the retreat center, but it's right on the ocean. Dude, it's just beautiful. I show up. I'm like 4 hours early because of my plane. I get there with the Uber. And I check in. They have like a desk where they're, who's coming. There's 36 of us. So I sign in like the first one there. I'm like, great. Anyways, I go get my key because we get a room on this retreat, part of the package deal. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go chill because I know my phone's gonna have to get checked in. So I go to my room and I'm on my phone, just doing some last emails, texting Leah, my wife. And all of a sudden my door opens and I'm like, well, my room's clean. Like, why would room service come in? Dude, so someone comes in, I'm like, hello. And this guy's like, hello. And he's got like a suitcase. And I like look at him and I'm like, who are you? And he's like, oh, you must be with Abundant Living. And I'm like, retreat. I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, we're going to be bunkmates. And I'm like,
is there 2 beds in the room?
Well, there's 2 beds.
Okay.
So I'm like,
just want to make sure.
Totally unaware that I'm going to have to sleep the night with a stranger for 5 days. And I like look at this and I go, red flag number 1.
I'm already like, no,
dude.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I get myself in these situations and somehow I just roll with it. Man, when you roll with it, bad things happen.
But you had that personality where you're just like, oh, okay. You're very bubbly. You're just very like, let's go, let's make it happen. So
this guy
that's what's cool about you. But then, I have to watch out for you sometimes.
Hey, I need protection.
You
and
do.
I need people around me because I can get myself in traps. So with that, this guy comes in and I'm like, 5 seconds into it, I'm like, all right, I'll figure this out. It'll be fine. And so he goes, hey, just so you know, once this retreat starts, I may not talk to you. And he's done this before. He's like, I immerse, and he's like, just don't be offended. And I was like, no worries. Like, this will be fine. And so I'm about ready to go in, okay? And I put my phone away, and I got 30 minutes to go to the center hall where everyone's going to check in and meet. It's at 5:30. It's 5 o'clock. And I just start praying, and I'm like, Lord, whatever's going to happen this week, I'm just going to ask for protection because I already know I just can feel it. I'm like, this is going to be some weird voodoo shit. I already can feel it. And so I'm just praying, and I get hit by the Holy Spirit to like actually just really keep praying. And so I'm just praying I pray, and I'm like, what do I pray for? He's like, pray for covering. So I pray for a glass box to be put around me for the weekend so I can see what's happening, but nothing can come in.
Okay.
So I'm praying for protection. And then I get this sense you need to pray out whatever's in the room. And so I'm just like, all right. And I've like never done this out loud before. I've done it in my head, but I'm like, all right, in the name of Jesus and the blood. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just like saying like that door, we're sealing it. I'm like, any evil spirits, you are out. I said, I'm not kicking you out permanently. You're just going on vacation for 5 days.
You have some ghost blood with you on just perhaps to put it on the door frame.
I got Holy Spirit spray. But no, I'm just like cleansing the room. And I haven't really done this before. And I'm doing this because the story I haven't told you yet, which will be another episode, you'll see why I'm doing this because of how crazy this stuff gets.
When you hear about the prequels.
When you hear about the prequels, you'll be like, because I already know I'm going into something and it's going to be cray-cray. So I'm just praying over the room and I'm like, you got to go. Like any spirits or things, this is my domain for the next 5 days. And I don't care what you do after that. And then I get hit with this vision, dude. Like straight on as I see you. I get like hit, like God sends me this vision, okay? And I see 2 things. I see a gargoyle, a dark, bright blue, which sounds funny, a gargoyle, gnarly looking creature where your white of your eyes is pure red and your eye socket is black.
Okay.
And he looks at me. And then right next to it, I see this huge beaming light figure, and you can't see the shape because it's blinding light. It's so light. So I'm thinking good versus evil here. Okay, like bam, then it goes away. And I really feel like the Lord was telling me, like, you're going to go into a very interesting weekend, so be guarded. So I'm like, okay. And I'm telling you this because this comes up later in the story.
Gotcha. See,
Are you freaked out at all yet?
I'm a little freaked out just because it's almost like I'm waiting for that to happen to me, but it hasn't really quite happened to me.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny is that you say this because last night my son, he wouldn't go to sleep. He got up kind of in the middle of the night and walked into our my bedroom, me and my wife, and we're like, we're dog tired. We want him to go back to his bed. He didn't. So he's like, something's up. So I got up and I just like, okay, I'm just going to go hang out with him because he's 5. And so I don't know, maybe he got some kind of nightmare. But anyways, I was in his room. I felt something weird and I didn't know what it was, but it felt dark. And I was literally like praying and I had my hand on my kid and just be like, keep us safe. Thank you, God. I mean, we're here, because it brought me back to that same video I saw about these Satanist worship groups, and they're they can't touch you when you're praying. So I automatically my mind just went to start praying. So I did. So I just started praying. I started praying for, I would say, for a good 5 minutes, and just being in it, and then I fell asleep and we're okay. And that's probably the only time I've actually experienced something like that. And for you to say you saw something right as you were looking at me, that freaks me out. And it just tells me like, I kind of had to be ready for something like that. And how do you be ready for something like that to show up? Like, and I think you guys were telling me about I know NLE is coming up.
Yeah.
And I know you can't talk about it. You guys can't explain about it, but I'm like, that's part of my question here is when I go to that, like, how do you prepare for those scenarios? But it goes back to me, I'm having to fall back to just cast all your worries and fears and then you'll be okay.
Yeah. I think on that point, it's really, basically, what you're asking is to get your eyes open, like leaving the matrix of not left versus right, not woke versus unwoke. It's the spiritual realm of basically the good versus evil that's going on with God, the Father, Jesus, and all these other entities that fell from heaven. Yeah, that are there's a spiritual thing going on. So, Alex, you got something how to prepare for that? I feel like you're might have something than I do on that.
Prepare for it. I would say like just grow in your relationship with God, and you'll have this like internal knowing. If He lives on the inside of you, you'll be given this revelation. You'll be able to see and understand what He wants you to understand. And some things you don't engage, some things you do engage. And if you are God's son, you do have the authority to kick things out of your domain. Yeah,
I mean, but it sounds like, just like everything else, it sounds easier. That seemed to be too easy.
Right. It sounds,
because you're kind of thinking like, if you ever seen the movie Constantine with,
I have actually. Yeah.
With Keanu Reeves. Yeah. You're like, he has all these things in his arsenal, and you're just like, you got to be ready for this. But I understand it's a movie, but like, come on.
Man, we just got started and you're freaking out. Wait till we get going.
I love this. Is my first podcast. I love this.
Yeah. So, dude, I got some things that I'll share after this. We'll sit down because we could go into a whole rabbit hole on that.
Was that your story? Is that all that you wanted to share?
Dude, I didn't even get 2%.
Okay, go ahead.
No, this thing gets crazy. Okay. Dude. Yeah. No.
Well, you're leaving the audience with some suspense here. You gotta.
Oh, Roy, you're buckle your seatbelt and go. We're going on a roller coaster ride. We're clicking up right now. We haven't come down yet. So I get this vision, and now I'm on my way to the retreat. The retreat hasn't even started yet, and this thing just goes from like 0 to 100 pretty quick, man. Okay, so I go. There's 36 of us, and there's one guy teaching, and he's just pretty chill. He's just telling us about him, and he's got some pretty cool things he's done. And he talks about the book Power vs. Force that he's going to be teaching on frequency and how to get your state at like as the highest that you can, like at peace and serenity. When things happen to your life, don't fall into despair, don't fall into misery, like all these different low frequency states. And so he puts us through these exercises through the weekend to get us thinking like, hey, if this happened and you said this is a bad thing, how could this be a good thing? How could you make, like, I'll just use an example. Right. My first exercise was they gave us a piece of paper and they said, what is the worst thing that could happen to you on the retreat? And then everyone had 1 minute to write something. And I wrote down, my family dies, because I literally realized no one in the world could get a hold of me this weekend. I didn't give anyone, I don't know anyone here. I turned my phone in. If something happens, there's no way for anyone to get a hold of me until Sunday afternoon, and it's Wednesday. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's the worst thing, is like, if I could have went back and been with somebody because something happened and I missed it. And then we don't know this, but then you flip it and he goes, how could that be the best thing? So everyone's like, oh my God, you just hear the whoa, because everyone wrote down some crazy stuff, right? Yeah. And I was like, well, I got my answer like instantly. I already know how it's the best thing. I just wrote, because I know they're with Jesus. I know they're saved. And so we got to share this with some people, and I did stuff like that for the whole weekend. So I don't want to go into all of it, but that's what we did a lot, okay? So, but here's what's funny. We're 20 minutes in of him sharing what we're doing. He's like, by the way, this is a silent retreat. And he goes, Thomas, can you come up? So he brings this guy up, and he's like, I'm gonna show you what to do if somebody starts to talk to you this weekend for the next 5 days. He's like, hey man, it's so good. I haven't seen you since we've done this last time in a year. I can't wait to catch up. And he's like, hey, I'm gonna enjoy my silent retreat. I suggest that you enjoy your silent retreat, and I'll talk afterwards. And he's like, okay, thank you. And he said, if someone tries to talk to you this weekend, that's how you respond. And I was like, dang, this is going to be hard for me. I can't talk for 5 days.
But you're breaking silence there, but that's just to warn the other person?
Yeah. So you can talk if you grab the mic. You have to play the mic first during share time. Okay. Or when you do a breakout with somebody one-on-one. We did a lot of one-on-one breakouts. And then you share what you wrote, and the other person just says, like, thank you, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this can be hard, but it was all good. So I didn't do a lot of talking, and that was very interesting. And so I'll just go through a couple of the crazy things that happened, okay. Right? And dude, it was crazy, and it's interesting because they did ask to not share this stuff. Right. Well, so I'm breaking the rule.
Well, that works.
Yeah. No. And I'm doing it because like breaking this down of what's really happening here is very crazy. And I'm at the end of this story, I'm going to break down why I'm actually sharing this, because 99% of the people that go there are going to be blindsided of what's really happening. It's not good. So
it's not good.
No, okay. It's not good at all. Like this whole weekend was a sham, dude. It's not, here's the crazy thing. There is a lot of truth, but it's missing Jesus, and it's missing the real truth. And this is where the enemy comes in, and he gives you 9 truths and 1 lie, and then 8 truths and then 2 lies. 7, he boils you like a frog. And that's what happened this weekend. That's why I'm breaking this down, because of what's going on. So we do these exercises, and I'm going to cut this story pretty short because I could talk on hours, but I'm just going to share the one crazy part, right? And then we'll dive into this. Okay. So the craziest thing that happened, and this is the night right before the end, and I could feel it in my spirit. Something is about to go down that is not going to be good. And so he tells us I'm going to teach you how to leave your body without drugs and how to astral project. Do you know what that is?
I mean, I can imagine
you leave your body.
You leave your body.
Your spirit leaves your body.
Spiritual realm.
Yeah. And so he's like,
it just makes me think of that Chris Farley movie where he's in Beverly Hills Ninja. Yeah. And he goes up into the sky, into the clouds, and he meets with everyone, and he's like, hey, he doesn't know how to stop. And then, and then he returns back to Earth, and slams into his body. He runs into something.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And this is you'll love this. So I've already done this, but I did it on drugs.
Okay.
I did it in Vegas on drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story. But that's why we call this
I
Vegas
can't
2.0.
pick you as a person that would do that, but
I kind of didn't. I kind of got laced.
Okay.
But I didn't.
you got lit. Okay.
I did and I didn't. That's a story for another time.
Okay.
But so I've already astro projected, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm out. But I was like, you know what? I want to be in this room when they do it, because I want to see and feel what it's like when all these people do this from a spiritual sense, what I feel. And so I go back, he goes, go back to your room, go get your yoga mat, go get a pillow and a blanket. We're going to be in this room and lay down for an hour. So I go back, I start praying. I'm like, God, like, is it okay if I'm in this room? Like, cause I know some crazy stuff's going to happen, like spiritually, like demons are going to come flying out. I just know it. And so he's like, yeah, you got a glass box that you prayed for and that you can see what's happening in the room and you're going to be protected.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, let's go. But I really heard, you do not engage and you do not try to fight. You do not pray to like send these things out of the room, whatever's about to happen. Like you're just observing and watching. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight. And so I come back, I lay down. I'm not going to go how he does it, but he teaches you how to, breathe a specific way. And he's walking you through, he's talking and he's playing music. And the crazy part is there's a big gong in the middle of the room with candles in a circle around it with two chairs facing each other. No humans sat in those chairs the entire time. They're summoning spirits to like something to be there. Okay. We're like 10, 15 minutes in, he grabs the mallet and he's like, all right, you're all about ready to go and leave your body. And they're all got their eyes closed. I'm watching. Dude, he's like, on the count of 3, he's like, I all want you to scream. And I'm just like, oh, this is not good.
This is not good.
No. So he goes 3, 2, 1. And he goes, Roy, he hits this gong. Dude, I physically heard hell in the spiritual realm. The frequency that was coming out of these people's mouths was nothing I've ever heard of a pitch or anything. It was like gnashing of teeth, as it describes in the Bible, is how I would picture it. And it sounded unhuman, these people that were screaming. It was for 20 seconds, pure horror and terror ran through my body. The crazy thing was I was not afraid for the first time, because I've been around some pretty crazy spiritual stuff that I've kind of alluded to you. And I've always had a fear hit me. I was not afraid though. But the terror that went through my body was, I can't even describe it.
Were you paralyzed or were you just kind of like walking?
No,
or
I was laying down.
You were laying down.
I just felt terror and horror go through my body. And it was freaking me out. And I'm going to go back in a second here and tell you what I think was going on. And so what happened was they do that. They lay down. You can feel the room. Dude, people were leaving their bodies. Like the whole atmosphere shifted. And then I pretty much visionary saw demons flying around and hitting my glass box and like trying to get in, and they couldn't get it. Dude, it's crazy. The whole room is so. After a bit, I get out. An hour goes by, and everyone's done. They've come back to their bodies, and they just basically share what happened. People are like, I saw loved ones that were dead. A lot of people said they saw Jesus. A lot of people just said it was the best feeling they've ever felt. So they had all these experiences, right? So now I'm going to break down what actually happened. Okay. So that's what was going on.
Was there any kind of like food that you guys ate or anything, like, drinks or nothing? It was just water? Just normal,
everybody was eating the same food at a big mess hall.
Okay. And
it was not just us, it was other people. Because there was like lots of other groups there this weekend. And so we were all eating the same thing.
Okay.
Nobody got drugged. It was literally, he taught you you can do it. It's pretty crazy. And so basically what the discernment on what happened this weekend for me was, I really saw how the enemy works, and the vision that I had earlier was revealed to me at the very end, after the retreat was over, right as it was ending, that the gargoyle and the figure in light are the same people. It wasn't a yin and yang.
Wait. The gargoyle and who?
That, remember there in the vision I had was a gargoyle.
Yeah.
That was that creepy blue. And then right next to him was this huge, big, bright figure of light that I couldn't see the figure of it because it was blinding light.
Okay.
They were the same people. It was the same thing. And so it was not a good versus evil there. And there's another story into this that I'm not going to share just from a personal standpoint of what was going on. But it basically got revealed to me that good and evil was basically how it was being portrayed, but it was really evil the whole time because the enemy comes as light. He was the light bearer.
Yeah. And
so people get deceived. And so when people were going on this astral projecting and doing these things, feeling this euphoria, your feelings and your emotions betrayed you because you didn't have discernment of what was being thrown in front of you. And so when someone says, when I heard them, they're like, this is the best feeling ever. Well, just because it was the best feeling ever doesn't mean it's good for you. Doesn't mean it's actually you should be following it. And so what I saw this weekend was people were being led down a path and being boiled like a frog. It was 9 truths, 1 lie, 8 truths, 2 lies. So slowly through that book that I was telling you about, because God created all that stuff and the enemy manipulates it and twists it. And so he gets us to believe a certain thing because we're like, oh my gosh, if I can stay in this state, if I can do these things. And what I watched is all these people, they got boiled. And so when they hit the gong, he talked about a high frequency. It was the lowest frequency I've ever felt in my life. And that was the moment where I felt like that's the trap, is because there's all these truths, all these things that are actually real in the real world that are connected physically and spiritually. But to get you, there has to be this moment. And that was the moment, and no one felt it. And I even asked people afterwards, they didn't feel anything like that. I was the only one in the room that could feel this crazy fear and terror.
Which was the lowest frequency?
Yes.
So you felt the lowest frequency
I've ever felt in my life.
And then, so what frequency did you get back to?
Did I get back to?
Yeah.
Like me personally?
Yeah.
Afterwards it was done? Just kind of like a normal state. Like for like 20 seconds, it was like hell. I don't even know if that how you would call it a frequency, but it was like pure low. But everyone I talked to afterwards, they thought it was like the highest frequency ever. And so here's my thing is like, he's teaching all these things about frequency, but at the end of the day is you're believing these things, you're following it. If you did that session day 1, I guarantee you more people would have seen what was going on. They wouldn't have ate it up because their guard's up.
Well, I mean, so there's something else where I'm going to push back on, because you put, I'm going to use your analogy of the glass box.
Yeah.
You didn't allow yourself to do it. So how do you know that it wasn't, they also didn't experience the highest frequency?
The Holy Spirit, discernment. It goes back to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so how this weekend played out, this is the trap. I'm glad you asked this question. Okay. This is great because, believe me, I felt it the other way when I was on drugs and did the wrong way. So I have done it, just not in that moment.
Okay.
So it's not saying I haven't. I just did it in a different sense, in a different place. But going back to what I saw this weekend was like every day we get a choice to eat from the tree of life or the tree of knowledge of good and evil that Adam and Eve ate, right? And what I mean by that is this whole weekend was trying to discover what is your truth. Yeah. That's what he kept saying, your truth. Only you can find your truth. Only you can do this. Only you can. And it's like you're getting led in a dangerous path if you're trying to find your truth, because there is only one actual truth. There really is. Now there's, it doesn't mean that things aren't real. And that's why I said earlier, you get 9 truths with a lie. Well, that statement is 90% right, but there's 1% that's messed up with it. And so when Satan tempted Eve to eat the apple, he said, surely you will not die. He threw in 9 truths with 1 lie there. She did die, but not how he was saying it to her, right?
Right.
So that's how that weekend played back. And what was going on is what I meant by like discernment with the Holy Spirit is, if I didn't have that glass box, I probably would be affected in a different way. If I didn't pray for that protection, because us as humans, we're not supposed to know everything and experience everything. that's the whole point of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is there's certain things that God created that are not good for us to have in that experience. And when we indulge in that, we are leaving his presence. And when you leave his presence, you don't have discernment.
Who's the average person that was there? I mean, was it just pretty much a melting pot of everyone? Was it all a particular type of person, race, ethnicity, or
it was
maybe even status?
I would say it was a pretty mix of ethnicities. I would say the age was 45 and up, average. There was a couple young people.
Okay.
A couple younger than me. I'm 36. But most people were probably at least 10 years older than me on average. I think the oldest guy was probably 66, 67. Most people, though, they're looking for something. They're lonely, right? They're looking for community. They're looking for relationship. They don't have people in their community. So when you come here, and this is why I call it's dangerous, is because you have now created an environment for people to feel safe with a group of people that made them feel a specific way. But after a while, it's not the truth with Jesus and how it's set up. And so they're never going to be fulfilled. They're never going to feel that purpose. They're going to feel temporary, but it's never going to be enough because you're trying to find your truth. Well, you can go on your truth for eternity and you're never going to find it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people out there that they don't want to be unplugged from the matrix. They want to take the blue pill, and they just want to live life ignorant. There is a level of truth. I mean, there is a level of truth to that ignorance is bliss. That once you open this box, you can't close it. And so just like in anything else, if you really dive deep into pretty much any kind of topic and you go down that rabbit hole, like there's no going back.
No.
And so I guess where I'm going with that is, what I mean, I think that's okay for people to make that kind of decision. I don't think it's right for them to want to open up and see things. Like me, I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to open up the box and see what's in there. I kind of want to know, like, I'm just curious like that, but I don't fault anyone for not wanting to open up that box to be exposed to some of these things. And I don't know, is life better that way? I would say no, but again, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I fault anyone wanting to open the box, is how I wouldn't put it. I think, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Do you have a way to word this, Alex? Because I know we're thinking the same thing. I feel like I'm just trying to figure out.
I'm just trying to play the different voices.
No,
from
I love
people.
this question. I'm just trying to figure out how to word this.
Whether or not to fault people for opening the box, you mean like spiritual things?
Yeah, for people just to stay a little ignorant to it. There's a lot of people there's tons of people that go through life they just make their money, they enjoy life, they go out and they have fun, and they just kind of leave people alone and just kind of stick to their own and not explore too far out of it. Just kind of stay in that comfort zone, which we already know that staying in your comfort zone is not the greatest, but for some people that they find that's where they want to be, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a very loaded.
It's a
not even a question.
It's a big topic in general.
Yeah.
But most people in general are just okay with doing what they're told and what they've kind of been like programmed and just taught to believe. But there's always like a curiosity inside of everyone inherently. So most people will allow it to be suppressed by the people that feed us information. But since we're more than just a physical body, we have a soul, we have a spirit, we're inherently going to like crave things and be curious about the things in the spirit, because just like our body craves food, working out, like we crave physical things, our spirits are going to crave spiritual things. So if our spirits, we allow them to be awakened by God, and even people who aren't following God, they're going to be curious about spiritual things because they have that part of them that's kind of craving something other than the physical world. They want to look into these things.
Did you grow up in a family where you guys went to church and everything, or was that not part of like You guys,
I just got his story like last week.
Yeah, you have no idea. So we did go to church, but it's a complicated situation. I grew up in a family deep in the occult.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with the things that Jaron's talking about.
gotcha. Yeah, because I mean,
We should have him on as a guest
we'll have
if he's willing to.
we could talk on that. But I mean,
Yeah.
I know your parents were church going people.
They were, but I didn't go to church growing up. We did like kind of home church stuff.
Okay.
But I mean, we were very close to God. Like our intention of living life was to worship God, be in prayer, like seek him. But we didn't go to a building.
Yeah. So I went to a building all the time. It was a Baptist church too. And it was over in Carrollton. And I went there because, I mean, I had friends there. I didn't really put too much thought into, who God was. Like I said, I explained this before in the other podcast. I realized he was there, but I'm like, God, I know you're there, but I just want to do my thing. I see you. I know you're there. I'm not, I'm never going to put you down. I know you're the big guy up there. Don't strike me down, but I'm just going to kind of, I'm just going to kind of go. And then, it's funny that I'm asking this question because the guys like me, I'm opening up that box. I'm asking these type of questions. And it's because I think something there's a start somewhere and someone goes the extra step forward.
Yeah. Okay. So that's basically what I was trying to get to is when you want to open the box is like, you definitely want to go seek him. You don't want to go seek power or like the spiritual realm. You want to go seek Jesus's face. Like, who is the guy who created you, right? Mm-hmm. Who's the seek the Father. And so that's where I think a lot of people get misled is if you're focused on trying to figure out how like to experience things or like, I want to just feel this joy and all these things, like that's where that big beam of light is next to that gargoyle. It's the trap. It's the hubris. It's the ego. It's the enemy coming in and masquerading and keeping you away from what's really true.
Yeah.
And so that was more what I was saying is like, it's not, you want to go seek it, but what is it when you're saying you want to go seek it?
Mm-hmm. It could be anything.
This is crazy. This is my saying I came out this weekend. I was like, that son of a bitch. Satan, Lucifer, whatever, that bad guy's name is, dude, he is so tricky. And the moment that you think that you can out-trick him, you've lost. That's what's dangerous. And that's what I saw this weekend is because if you're going to dwell and go do things in the spiritual realm without Christ, you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
If you're not going to invite the Holy Spirit in and do it that way, you just opened a door for the enemy to come in. Doesn't mean that bad things are going to happen. I think they are, but I don't know. Some people, I didn't live these guys' experiences, but I've done some stuff that I'll tell you in another story. So I have a perspective of what's going on because I have astral projected and I've done what they went and did, but I was on drugs.
You're on drugs.
Jaron was on drugs.
That's how great stories start. I was so high or so messed up that.
Dude, that's such a funny story. But I think the biggest takeaway though for me is like, I say this a lot, there's this war going on and people think that it's not a big deal. But it is, because it's a war after our souls. And the enemy, he's trying to take one of us at a time, take us to hell with him. And we play it off as this light thing. But the thing is when we go engage in stuff like that and you fall for it, mm-hmm. you just fell for the biggest trap ever. Is you're going for feelings and emotions. Well, just because, like I said this earlier, I'm going to say again, just because you feel a certain way, it doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't.
No.
It only lasts for a certain amount of time. And so if you're going to go find your fulfillment in something without Jesus, it won't last. It won't. And I'll die on that hill because I know it. I've done the other side. Don't work.
Interesting.
And so, and this is what I say, it's not that it's not real. It's just not the way. And that's where it gets conflicting with a lot of people because I'll tell people.
So you think it's like putting on a show, like it's not real. It's like Cirque du Soleil for the spiritual realm. You have this feeling, and then you see all these different acts
it's
happening.
not that it's not real.
But it's not that it's not real, but it's actually not.
It's a distraction because the enemy doesn't want you to be following Jesus. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Like when you talked about, it's not like it's so simple. It's like it really is freaking simple. It's just very hard. It's hard to stay on the path. You got something?
No, I was agreeing with what you said. It's simple but difficult. Like the process, like people can say things that sound very simple and that are true, but those things tend to be very difficult, and like the reasons for the spiritual things happening tend to be very complicated, but you don't need to understand everything.
Yeah. I still think that the mind is not even capable of understanding everything that God's created. And then, so if you think you're going to be able to get it in that, I see your point. That's a lie.
Yeah.
So
you just got to be careful. Yeah. Like if you're going to be going down that rabbit hole, it's not, and this is the point, and then maybe we can just end on this, is like, to me, this is what was revealed to me this weekend, is it's not as simple as just saying that you're out of the matrix and say, here's the red blue, or here's the red pill, here's the blue pill.
Yeah.
Because most people, what they do is they take the red pill in their mind and they go, oh, I've left the matrix, but they're actually just in another matrix that the enemy created because they're not following Jesus. He got you in another box and you don't see it. And that's the trap that I saw this weekend.
Was this even our topic that
I don't even know.
Started with?
I think the topic was Jaron's story.
I think,
so,
I think so too.
Yeah. But that's just the trap, is the enemy's a son of a bitch and he's really sneaky. You just got to be aware.
Okay.
I think we can end on that one.
We can definitely end on that one.
Good story, huh?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, that was good.